Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
It is the Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. On this Tuesday, the 14th of January, I'm CJ Baumgartner, Corey Tackman on the other side, Zeke in the middle, and I'm just going to pull away our banner just to see how Zeke's feeling. He's letting you know, if you're watching on YouTube, he's sad Zeke right now.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all sad Zeke?
Props to Zeke for putting a straight face on it. He's not lying to you.
No, I'm what are we said about the Wild, right? And the Wild injuries that have decimated this team? No Brock Faber, no Jonas Brodin, no Kirill Kaprizov, no Jacob Lauko, no Jared Spurgeon. That's what we're sad about today, right?
No, we're sad the Twins haven't signed a free agent yet.
Oh, that too. Oh, dang it.
I think we're sad about Anthony Edwards getting yet another technical. And
$250,000 in fines.
Quit
for Anthony Edwards.
Off, my guy.
He just can't keep his hand down.
Wait, you guys are surprised he's still immature?
No, he's only 23. Yeah, God.
He can't even rent a car yet.
No, actually, we're sad about the Gopher men's basketball program. They lost again last night after being up in the first half.
One more win the rest of the year, by the way.
That was winnable. They were ahead at halftime, ahead for most of the game, and weirdly, they're not good enough to hang on and win games.
Why do you guys ask me on today? This is terrible.
Hey, does anybody remember when the WNBA commissioner wore a New York City skyline?
I am not having fun right now, guys.
Does anybody remember that?
I do.
Was that just this sports season, I think, right?
Yes.
You know what? Let's try and remember the happy times, like when the Wolves went to a Western Conference final.
And then they blew it up. They didn't run it back. They blew it up.
Yeah. How about hey, the Twins are pretty good. Like at the end of August, they were on pace to be a 95 win ball club. Yeah. That was
the Minnesota Frost. The Minnesota Frost rating champions.
Yeah. They had a great offseason, by the way.
Where they fired their GM for no reason.
Why? I just want one thing. I want one thing. Can I get one nice thing? That's too much to ask.
Yes. Yeah, but the falls are nice,
Too much to ask.
You know that 2 weeks of summer. Oh, the mosquitoes are pretty bad.
You should make it nice out there,
Good ice for fishing, Good ice. That's the good ice.
I hate this. Can we be done?
I'm literally trying to think of anything good that's happened in the past 6 months, and I don't think that I can.
Anything that won't make you get happy and then immediately sad.
Charlie Woods hit a hole-in-one. Does that count?
Yeah, kind of. Golf?
Anything, Scotty?
We're resorting to golf for our happy times?
I do love golf.
A Detroit Lakes alum's on the LPGA Tour.
Yeah, she is.
Friend of the podcast.
Yeah. How about the end of that Bemidji Beavers football season? That was a joy, wasn't it?
Out of all the teams I had to lose to, I had to beat a freaking Mankato. All right.
Okay, let's start this podcast. We're ready now.
Bemidji State certainly didn't split with the Gophers and UND and then completely flop against inferior conference opponents. No. What are we? We're having fun. It's
all right. Let's talk about the Vikings now. We haven't talked about them yet.
No, we're gonna push that off. We're gonna push that off as far as possible. It's we're like the TikTok clip where it's got the clip from Family Guy where he's golfing, and it's and it just leads to him breaking down and go, because this is fun. We're having fun. And it's, why do you talk about sports on a podcast for 30 minutes every day? You're getting angry. Should everybody be angry? No, this is fun. We're having fun. Let's try and focus on some, hey, Staples-Motley made a prep bowl. There's
your positive. Yeah.
Parker's Prairie won a state football game for the first time in program history. They got to play at US Bank Stadium. There you go. There's some. Sabika Trojans made the state volleyball tournament. We had some local sports highlights to keep us going.
All their seasons ended with a loss too.
Okay. We're not close enough to be a. There you go, Corey. You just chased off the Staples-Motley alum.
Oh, gosh. Let's do our high school sports, huh?
Well, it depends. We're not close enough to be a Holly Nuggets themed podcast because they technically did win the last game of their season.
We'll beckon Zeke back with some high school sports coverage. How's that sound? Browerville, Eagle Valley, and Henning boys basketball tonight, CJ?
Yeah, that should be a fun one. 7
o'clock pregame, 7:15 tip time on Superstation K-106. That's 105.9 FM. And WDenaRadio.com. Going to be a lot of orange in Henning tonight, a lot more than normal. I've already reached out to head coach Randy Misigatis, and he's the AD there also, and said, just so you know, I know there's going to be a lot of people, and it's very cramped in that Henning gym. I'm going to need you to clear out a little extra space for me here today. I've got extra gear that I got to bring tonight. I'm going to have to wear blaze orange just to fit in, and I'm going to need a zone. So make sure you get a zone set up for me over there on the visitor side of the basketball court. So 7 o'clock pregame, 7:15 tip, Browerville, Eagle Valley, and Henning in Henning tonight, 105.9 FM, Superstation K-106, and WDenaRadio.com.
Those two teams played a year ago, by the way, in a really fun basketball game in Clarissa at the Eagle Valley High School gym. And that was a back and forth game. Browerville, Eagle Valley was up at halftime. Henning ended up coming back and winning. Those two teams both played in Perham over the weekend, but not against each other. They both played Nevis, who I think is the front runner to win 5A for boys. And they both lost, I believe, within 5 points. So these are both some really strong basketball teams. It should be a really fun night. They're both teams like to play quick. They got some good athletes. Should be a fun one, Corey. I'm excited for you to call that game. I would be listening, but unfortunately I won't be because I'll be doing a little Highway 10 rivalry boys basketball. Zeke, how about this one? How about this? Staples-Motley at Wadena Deer Creek boys basketball. Does that sound fun?
Love it.
Love it. That'll be simulcast back in the old days on KWAD and KNSP. That's 101.7 FM and AM920 KWAD and 98.5 FM and AM1430 KNSP The Fan. Also online at WDenaRadio.com/KWAD. 7:15 pregame, 7:30 tip-off from the WDC Middle High School gym. Looking at both these teams here for Wadena Deer Creek. They're 4-4 on the campaign, and Staples-Motley 5-4. Both teams started off strong with 3-0 starts, and then both teams kind of just going through the mid-season blues, trying to find their stride and see what happens here in the month of January. So should be a fun one tonight. I'll have the call for all that action. And as always, you can find our full broadcast schedule online at WDenaRadio.com and find it there. And we got a whole bunch of local sports coming this week and the next 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 week. And pretty much up until mid-March, in which case we'll be getting ready for baseball. And mid-March might be how long it takes for us to actually get over what happened with the Minnesota Vikings last night. So let's just dive headfirst right into that, guys. Corey, there maybe was a local sports podcast that said a bounce-back game for Sam Darnold was coming, that the Vikings were going to win and that they were going to score a lot of points and stuff like that. I don't know if one existed. I think if they did, their hosts are, they didn't go over very well in the grand scheme of things. But I guess just kind of gut-level reactions. What went wrong? Sad Zeke, you have the floor first.
Everything.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
Everything went wrong. I was talking to the guys, some friends here in Brainerd yesterday, and just kind of getting their thoughts on it. And the consensus was, I wouldn't be surprised if they win, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they lose. I just didn't think that they would lose in a way very, very similar to the way they lost to Detroit 2 weeks ago. I mean, it looked like the same team out there, the same mistakes, the same everything. I mean, you give up 9 sacks. I think it was an NFL playoff record for most yards lost on sacks for the Vikings last night. 83 yards lost on sacks of Sam Darnold last night. I didn't watch much of the game. I'll admit I'm in enough text groups to know what was happening in the game. I've seen 2 things from that game. I saw the not intentional grounding little shovel pass that that Matt Stafford got away with last night. And I also saw the quote from Josh Metellus, this is the heartbreakers. At the beginning of the season, nobody believed in us, and nobody believes in us now. And that tore my heart out of my chest, because it's true. It is so true. I mean, I've never seen this much disdain, this much sadness about a 14-win team. Because the Vikings have to be the first 14-win team to lose in the wild card round of the playoffs.
They're the only 14-win team to play in the wild card round. So.
Yeah. So,
and one thing to add, by the way, onto what you were saying with the sacks. Here's something that'll make you feel better. This is earlier in the game. Only 2 of Darnold's 6 sacks taken came in less than 4.4 seconds of pressure. None faster than the 3.2 seconds. So most of the sacks were just holding on to the ball too long and not knowing where to go with the football. I know the Vikings play a deep intermediate style too. That doesn't help either. But it's a lot of just that, where it just looked like this team didn't know, whether it's on the quarterback, whether it's on coaching, whether it's on receivers, whether it's on whatever, they just did not come ready to play at all. And like you said, it was basically like the Rams looked and saw exactly what Detroit did and said, let's just do the exact same thing. And obviously we talked about coaching yesterday, Corey, on our episode, and we said, that was going to be a factor, and McVay, obviously the better coach than O'Connell, and that was kind of proven yesterday. Not that O'Connell's a bad coach, but Sean McVay definitely won that battle and won it pretty easily.
So I used to play volleyball on Sunday nights, and it was like a nice team, right? We had one year where we won the league. We had a lot of other years where we were close to the bottom of the league.
Congratulations.
Now I'm setting this all up. Thank you, by the way. It feels good.
Did you hang the banner?
I'm setting this. No banner. We did go out for beers.
That's even better.
So I'm setting all this up to say there were nights at volleyball where things just were not going our way. Like it was one of those Sundays where none of us could pass. We just couldn't find the setter. Every time we did, the setter couldn't find the hitter. Every time the setter could find the hitter would hit it into the net or hit it out. You know what I'm saying? And when those nights happened, it was also the same night that the other team would serve the ball into the top of the tape of the volleyball net, and it would roll over for an ace. Where it was like everything that could have gone wrong for us was magnified, because everything that could have gone right for them also went right for them. And it felt like that from the outset. Like I can't remember the exact progression of all of this, but it was roughly the first 4 possessions of the ball game were a score, a fumble recovery return for a touchdown that was not, and then a blocked punt that seemingly went into the guy's mouth and out his butthole that ended up not being a blocked punt. It was an insane chain of events, and you're watching it happen, and you're like, everything's going wrong for the Vikings right now, and everything is going – it's not neutral for the Rams. Everything's going right for the Rams on top of it. Everything, to use Zeke's answer, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong in that game. I didn't think it was possible for the Vikings to play as bad against the Rams as they did against Detroit. And hoo boy, was it ever.
Right. And there were, for as bad as things went, there were opportunities, the roughing the kicker call that the Vikings got, that maybe Kamir Grugier-Hill threw the guy into the punter. Doesn't really matter. Kind of felt like a makeup call for the intentional grounding, which is just its own separate set. First, with the intentional grounding, what I mean, if that's what we're going to call intentional grounding, every quarterback ever should just throw it into the turf as they're falling to the ground. If that's going to be the standard, I get Nakua was in the area. The Vikings got called for an intentional grounding penalty in Chicago where the ball was like a foot away from CJ Ham, but they were like, that's not a good faith pass attempt. What do you call that? They expedited reviewed that. They greenlit that. That just egregious. Anyway, you had the opportunity when you got bailed out on that and got the ball moved up. You had some opportunities. The defense eventually got it together enough to give you some chances to come back in that game. And you just couldn't. You would get a big play. Cam Akers had a nice run. Jefferson would have a couple big catches. Hawkinson had a big catch. And every time it felt like, okay, you got an opportunity here, please take advantage of it, they would just go, oh, no, we can't. We just can't do it. We can't. And that's where it all kind of, there were a couple big moments in this game. And one where it was right before halftime, the Vikings had a 4th and 2 around midfield and they went for it. And I know there's some people that said, hey, punt the ball, go to halftime. You're only down 10, I believe at the time, or maybe 14. And to which I said, no, you have to go for it. Like your team, like you need something to go right. I agreed with that one. But there were several opportunities in that game where the Vikings just, at every opportunity, it's like, this is an inflection point in the game. Grab hold of it. It's the SpongeBob meme where it's, all right, let him have it. And they go, you can have it. And the Rams just played better and did that. And I think overall, there's a lot of things that go down to this game. But the one thing that's going to stick out to me overall, you got outplayed, you got outcoached, like whatever. It just, and maybe it just wasn't your night. It's single game elimination. That's fully okay to happen in the NFL playoffs where you just have a bad game at a bad time. That happens. But the way in the fourth, at the end of the third quarter, there's like 2 minutes left. The game is over, but like it's not over for the players on the field and the coaches. And there was no urgency with the football. They just kind of they were calling runs and they were taking forever to get to the line. And even in the fourth quarter, they were calling just runs up the middle. And it felt like they just kind of already were waving the white flag. Maybe I'm misreading that, but the vibes, there was, how many games they played? There was like 16 games of good vibes up until the final 2. And it's just completely like, this is recency bias, but I just have felt like all the good vibes have just completely went away in 60 minutes of football, or 120 if you count the Lions.
Yeah, I don't.
120, yeah.
Definitely 120. I don't. When you're at work and it sucks at work, you want to do everything you can to go home.
Right.
And I think some of this is a little like, I maybe grasping for straws a little bit on the vibe check, late in that game. I know there was still a whole quarter to play and it ain't over till it's over and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. But that game was over. That game was over before halftime. That game was over at the end of the first quarter. That game might
have been over after the first drive. And the Rams just marched right down the field.
Is it professional? Is it professional to just like get me out of here? No, it's not. But I'm leaving the second we're done with work here today. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have those moments. We all have it every single day. I'm not doing it today. And so that part of it of like, of nobody has fun when you're not having fun. You know what I mean? That was just an ass kicking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to stick around either.
All right, here,
professional, but I understand.
That's fair. All right, here's the big question: was this season we talked about it in 2022, and now the same kind of vibe comes up again. Was this season worth it? Is it all? Troy Aikman said on the broadcast, if they don't win this game, it's all going to be meaningless. And then, of course, midway through the third quarter, ESPN flashed the graphic that said, since 1961, the Vikings are established in 1961, the Vikings are the oldest pro sports team to have never won a championship. They hung that thing up there for like an extra 30 seconds. It was up there for a very long time.
If I was Anthony Edwards, I'd be getting fined right now.
We're a kid-friendly show, so we appreciate you. You're not getting fined $250,000.
Okay. I was giving thumbs up, actually.
Yes. I
don't ESPN Go.
You were showing off the ring fingers.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just rubbing salt in the wound. But was this season worthless? Was everything about it worthless? Are you going to think back and be like, what a wasted season?
I'm not ready to answer that question yet.
I would say no, because it shows how awesome Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison can be with a Sam Darnold at quarterback. I mean, JJ still finished second in the lead in receiving yards. Addison had a breakout season. It showed what the huge need for this team in the offseason is going to be offensive line, and whether or not Kwesi can come up with an offensive lineman like he brought in Jonathan Gennard on on that super team friendly deal. He's a Pro Bowler. You bring in Andrew Van Ginkel, Pro Bowler. You bring in Brian Cashman, probably should have been a Pro Bowler. You're finding guys like Byron Murphy Jr., who's a Pro Bowler. You're drafting Josh Metellus late in the draft. You're finding all these guys, and now it has to be offensive line is the big thing. I think the three biggest offseason needs for Vikings this season is offensive line. You're going to have to find a safety because Harrison Smith ain't no spring chicken. And at some point you have to address the run game because Aaron Jones is not the answer. And so it shows a lot of the holes that this Vikings team has. Everyone's talking about, Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback whisperer. He can get all these guys to play awesome. Well, last night he needed to yell at his quarterback because whispering wasn't doing the trick these last two games. And it's if JJ McCarthy is going to come in and be the starter next year, coming off that the big knee surgery, he needs protection. You need some interior offensive linemen, and maybe that's the draft. Because the thing with the NFL is if you have a good lineman, you lock him up and you don't let him walk. And the Vikings are going to have to find one or two or three or four in the draft with no like second, third, or fourth round picks or something stupid like that this year too, because they moved up for Dallas Turner last year.
Yeah. By the way, Kevin O'Connell yesterday on the offensive line, this is from Matthew Collar of Purple Insider. He was at the press conference. Quote on the offensive line: "We have to find a way to solidify the interior of the pocket first and foremost. There could be 1,000 excuses, but it's the foundation of the interior of the pocket, and we have to take a long look at it."
I've looked long enough. I'm done looking.
That was him being like, yeah, we are going. Blake Brandel was a nice player for most of the season, but it's his first year as a full-time NFL starter. He clearly got worn down. Dalton Reisner is an upgrade over Ed Ingram, but almost anything is an upgrade over Ed Ingram. And Bradbury is fine, but he's got a fine floor and not really much of a ceiling, and he's fine. Like you got to figure out your guards, and that's
Who gave that quote?
That was Kevin O'Connell talking about
the OC did that.
Listen, no duh, dude. What do you can make all the excuses you want. You're the team, my guy. Who's making excuses? These are things that the Vikings fans that I know in my life have been clamoring for.
Never have I met a Vikings fan that wasn't ready to complain about the interior offensive line.
They haven't been great, and whatever. Am I still fired up? Am I sad Zeke today too? Yes, I am. But quit telling me to not make excuses. Tell you and your leadership to stop making excuses and fix it. Don't make this a my problem. This is a you problem, dude. Knock it off. I hate that kind of stuff. I'm not ready to answer your question kind of at large yet because come training camp time will be like, that was fun last year, but man, what a huge giant disappointment it was. And I'll be over it. But I'm still mad about the intentional grounding.
Right. Well,
I've watched that replay. I'm sure like you guys have a half a dozen to a dozen times. And the only thing I can come to is that that's just one of the rules that is a black or white rule. That's it. Because the second you institute a gray area in any of those rules, now we're really going to be talking about referees being able to make a decision for or not for Patrick Mahomes or for or not for Matthew Stafford. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that was they reviewed it because it was originally a fumble. They changed it.
He flicked his wrist. I'm not saying that but I don't like it.
No.
I think in the black or white rulings and the black or white standings of that rule, that is the right call. But if we're talking about in the nature of competitiveness or whatever that turn of phrase is that they
common
always
sense,
maybe common sense is the word. Thomas Paine. Then it's just missed. It's just missed. I don't know. And then Grugier Hill swallows a football, but it somehow doesn't touch his digestive tract. I'm just stunned by that.
Can I share some fun stuff with you guys?
Yes.
I've looked up Vikings interior linemen starters, the history. Can I give you some of these names that we've thrown out there?
Yeah,
Start with
sure.
Randall McDaniel so we can.
Real quick. So 2011, we had Steve Hutchinson, Anthony Herrera. That was solid. The next year, we had Charlie Johnson and Brandon Fusco.
Charlie Johnson. Brandon
We were
Fusco
there.
out of Slippery Rock, I think.
I think so, yeah. Then Joe Berger came in and started a couple games.
Joe Berger was good.
You
He
know,
was good.
Mike Harris.
What?
Remember Mike Harris or TJ the Turnstile Clemmings? He was there for a while.
Yeah, I think they moved him to left tackle immediately.
They did, yeah, which was not great. Alex Boone was here for a minute.
Alex Boone.
And Nick Easton was on the left side. Tom Compton and Mike Remmers.
No, yeah, they moved Mike Remmers to guard for some reason.
Yep, Pat Elfline and Josh Klein. Then Dakota Dozier and Ezra Cleveland. Then Ezra Cleveland and Oli Udo.
Oli.
Then Ezra Cleveland and Ed Ingram.
Eddie.
And then this year you had Dalton Reisner and Ed Ingram.
Well, no.
There's some fun names here. I forgot about a lot of these guys.
The Vikings are back in the all-time lead for playoff losses.
Yay.
That's good.
If you're going to be bad, be historically bad. We should make a song about that.
Mm-hmm.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
How about morning sports desk T-shirts in the colors of all of our favorite sports teams, and it just says, "There's always next year."
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember Vikings starting free safety Hussein Abdullah?
Uh-huh. Only my
Asher Allen, Cedric Griffin, Jamarcus Sanford, and Hussein Abdullah.
Jamarcus Sanford had a Linsanity run in 2012 and then disappeared off the face of the earth.
Mediu Williams.
But do you
Oh, these are some names. I got to stop looking.
any sap?
Make myself sad.
Not a Hall of Famer amongst the crew,
Josh Robinson.
except for Steve Hutchinson.
Josh Robinson.
The first name you said was Steve Hutchinson.
And that's where I drew the line. It's like since Steve Hutchinson.
Between Randall McDaniel and Steve Hutchinson,
Yeah.
it was pretty ugly. And then between Steve Hutchinson and whatever.
And current day.
We traded it for having a bunch of really good defenders that will not get Hall of Fame consideration until it's far too late. Jared Allen and Harrison Smith.
Half a decade now.
Yeah. It's been way too long for Jared Allen.
For half a decade to make the Hall of Fame.
He was a finalist, right?
Jared Allen is a finalist, but I can't wait until they pass up him and Antonio Gates for Eli Manning first ballot.
That would
Way, right? No way.
I know we talk about first ballot and like if they're a Hall of Famer, they're a Hall of Famer. First ballot doesn't really matter, but it matters in the case of like if that means you have to push somebody else who's also deserving who had to wait. Like this is like with baseball, like you can vote in way more players than the NFL. The NFL only takes like 5 in a year. Like that's ridiculous with how many players play. The NFL, I don't get that part. But like Jared Allen's a Hall of Famer. He just is. So is Antonio Gates or some of these other guys.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to make sure Eli Manning gets in because and I love Eli Manning. I'm a big Eli Manning defender. But we got to make sure he gets in because he does the Manning cast and because Peyton's his brother and he won 2 Super Bowls in New York. And
his last name's Manning.
yeah, I remember, by the way, Belichick.
Hold on. I love being so mad about the Vikings. We now just get to be mad about everything for a while.
Yeah, this is awesome.
The best.
We're just mad. You know what? Let's get some. This is our Festivus in a way. We're just airing but we only do the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people, and mainly it's just me yelling at like U.S. Bank Stadium or Target Field or something.
This is what grinds my gears.
It really grinds my gears. It's the good news is there's only 71 days until opening day because aren't we just all excited about Twins baseball?
Mm-hmm.
They gave us a lot
Speaking
of
of baseball, we're going to compare apples to oranges. Who do you think is a more deserving first ballot Hall of Famer, Manning or CeCe Sabathia?
CeCe, yeah.
CeCe? Okay.
Easily. He only has the 1 ring with the Yankees, but that dude legit was consistently good. Eli Manning was
never the best at his position ever. CeCe was the best at his position.
Oh, wow. Okay, good.
Almost a decade.
Okay.
Wasted the early part of his career in Cleveland and then finally once he went to the Yankees.
I mostly hate him because he was a Yankee and he was a Brewer and he was in Cleveland. So I just wanted to get him in that. Okay.
Do you remember what he did for Milwaukee that half a year he pitched? It was insane.
Didn't he win the Cy Young for the Brewers that year for that half season?
He
came close.
He pitched like 170 innings in the second half of the season.
From like just the last 2 months of the year, from August and September. That was it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Insane.
I'm going to look it up.
A starting pitcher single-handedly, a guy that only plays once every 5 days, single-handedly dragging a team into a postseason.
Well, and he pitched, I think, every 4 days.
Right.
And pitched twice in playoffs. Like, that was stupid what he was doing.
And then the Yankees gave him a boatload of money, and then he won the World Series the next year.
Yep.
And have the Yankees been back to a World Series since?
Yep.
Oh yeah, they got back this year. How'd that work out for him?
That one time.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I'm
sorry,
happy
I really
now.
dropped the ball on that comparison.
I'm happy Zeke now.
I dropped the ball on that comparison, like Aaron Judge on a routine fly ball to center.
I think about that drop fly ball once a week. I can't believe he dropped it.
Maybe it just went over his head for a second. Maybe he lost it.
That guy hasn't dropped a fly ball since 5th grade. And he dropped it at the World Series.
The worst time.
By that point in the series, nobody cared anymore.
That sucks.
Only Yankees fans will remember it, and people just wanting to dig in at Aaron Judge. But boo, they're moving back to the corner outfield now. Because whoever
2008 NL Cy Young voting: Tim Lincecum, Brandon Webb, Johan Santana, the New York Met legend, Brad Lidge, and then after appearing in 17 games as a starter for the Milwaukee Brewers, CC Sabathia in 5th place.
Amazing.
11-2, 130 innings pitched, a 1.65 ERA. In 17 starts.
How did he not win it? Lincecum's numbers were also insane.
They called him the freak for a reason. Tim Lincecum was like, there was like, obviously Santana and the Twins starting pitchers were like the ones that like you fall in love with as like a young fan. But like Lincecum was the first out of any team. Like you picked a guy, like if you were like playing MLB The Show and you did a fantasy draft, you always made sure Tim Lincecum was on your team. That guy, or if you turned force trades on and you would send Matt Tolbert to the Giants so you could get Tim Lincecum.
130 innings in 17 games is 7 2/3 innings every game. That's stupid. You assume that one of those or two of those weren't great. You know what I mean?
You assume there was a clunker. Maybe he gave up like 3 runs over 6 innings.
Yeah, they had to pull him after 6 complete.
Oh, darn.
Amazing. What a year.
Jeez. Insane. All right.
What else do we need to complain about?
One last thing about feeling sad here. Did Darnold just lose $60 million in the span of 8 days?
Seems like it. It seems like he'll be somebody's backup next year, doesn't it?
Here's the thing. Zeke, go ahead first.
I feel like there's enough quarterback needy teams out there that someone's going to give him an exuberant amount of money, and they're going to look at the first 17 games of this season and not the last 2, because he did make some serious improvements. Up until the Detroit game, he was a top 5 MVP candidate, in my opinion. And you look at it around the league, the Jets need a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback. What's Pittsburgh going to do with their quarterback situation? Seattle may need a quarterback. There's a lot of teams. Tennessee maybe goes to Tennessee and he starts for a year or two while they.
Oh, how's the Cleveland quarterback doing, by the way?
The Cleveland quarterback situation is a delight, but it's also a mess. So there's a lot of teams with a lot of cap space that could throw some money at Sam Darnold. I don't think he's going to get that. What was the number? $50 million a year or whatever? I don't know.
Will Love makes like 55. So like if he'll make somewhere in like the 45 to 50 million.
He'll get paid by somebody. It won't be the Vikings because it's JJ McCarthy season or Danny Dimes is the bridge at this point. But yeah.
This is why when people talked like 2 months ago, and remember everybody was like a month ago, we had this visceral debate of like trade McCarthy. What do we need? Like everything. It's like, well, let's just wait until the postseason because we're going to know, like we just got to wait till the season's over. One, because why wouldn't we just focus on the playoffs and winning football games in the actual season? But 2, because the playoffs just are so much of a magnifier. Kirk had a great season for the Vikings in 2022, but he checked down to TJ Hawkinson in a big moment and everybody kind of went, yep, I think we're ready to move on.
Moving on.
Like, I think it's time to start putting that wheel in motion for his departure. And that's the same thing with Darnold. He had a great season, and I think you just saw the way, and it wasn't just that he missed throws. You look at his body length, like you look at the way like his body was when you get ready to throw every time, like everything just looked off. And I think if you're the Vikings, I think that Darnold, let me put it to you this way. I wouldn't be surprised if Darnold does come back, if the Vikings give him like a 1-year franchise tag is like, you know what, your insurance, you play great, let's double down. And if you start to suck, JJ McCarthy's right behind you. He's 21 right now. He'll be 22 next year. He doesn't have to play until, like, he can play. He can start his first full year as starter at 23. That's not going to hurt anybody anything. But also, it's, do you want to spend $45 million on a potential quarterback that isn't, like, has shown some serious flaws? And this roster, I think the other thing is it's not just Darnold. I think what this loss also showed, and you mentioned it earlier, Zeke, this Vikings roster isn't perfect outside of quarterback. You do have to fix the interior of the O-line. You need a run-stuffing D-lineman. Your cornerback room, the list of impending free agents for the Vikings is large. As much as they were a rebuilding team, they were old and veteran because they signed Gilmore and they signed all these other veteran players. They were not like the Packers with a team full of a bunch of young draft picks. They had some free agents here, which raises the age of your team. But it also means, like, you got to get some new corners. You got to get a run-stuffing D-tackle. You have to fix the interior of the offensive line, and you got to figure out the running game for next year as well, all with not a lot of draft picks. You're probably going to go, is it worth spending $45 million on what could be halfway through the year our backup quarterback? Like, that's the where I go back and forth, where my gut tells me that they're still going to find a way for Sam Darnold to come back next year but the way he fell off so hard, I think it would not surprise me either way if the Vikings won. Because even a month ago, when he was doing all this stuff, Wes Phillips, Vikings offensive coordinator, put a quote out there where he said, yeah, Sam, somebody's going to pay Sam Darnold a lot of money next year. And that wasn't a slight. That was like the plan all along was to have Darnold come here, have a good year, go have him get a big contract somewhere else, and bring in McCarthy. And I think it just kind of confirmed to the Vikings that, like, yep, that's still the plan. JJ McCarthy, 2025.
Here's your list of free agents this offseason. Cam Akers, Cam Bynum, Jonathan Bullard, Sam Darnold, Dan Feeney, Stephon Gilmore, Shaq Griffin, Camus Gregor-Hill, Aaron Jones, Daniel Jones, Patrick Jones, Brandon Powell, David Quisenberry, Dalton Reisner, Cam Robinson, Trent Sherfield Sr., Jerry Tillery, Byron Murphy Jr., Fabian Moreau, Nick Mullins, Johnny Munt, Jihad Ward, Theo Jackson, Ryan Wright.
Wait, Pro Bowler Byron Murphy? Free agent?
Byron Murphy Jr., he's the one getting the big contract this offseason. He's a Pro Bowler, man.
That guy's going to get a big how about best number 3 tight end in the league, Johnny Munt?
Yep.
I like how about 5-6 weeks ago, we were talking about how the quarterback room for the Minnesota Vikings couldn't be in a better situation, right? Head coach, quarterback with McCown on the bench. McCown's going to be a coach somewhere probably next year.
Be an offensive coordinator for somebody next year.
And then you have Darnold playing out of his shoes, knowing full well that the future is waiting in the wings. And JJ McCarthy, and you knew what that coaching staff did for Kirk Cousins in the previous years. And you bring in Danny Dimes, and maybe he's the next reclamation project. And now all of a sudden, your quarterback room is led by a NFL head coach who's a former quarterback who had a seemingly weird game plan against a poorly executed game plan anyway against the Rams is how it looks. And you have Sam Darnold, who couldn't probably be looked upon any worse than he ever has been, and who likes Danny Dimes at all, like pretty much nobody but probably his mother. And you have a rookie quarterback off a major knee surgery who is totally and completely unproven. Yikes, dude.
Let's go.
Yeah, but think about the cap space.
Think about the cap space. That's what we know.
Sign a free agent? No free agents. I only want cap space. If we sign a big free agent, there goes all of our cap space. Dang it. I don't actually want to be a good football team. I want the idea of a good football team that I could build in my head because I'm smart.
Well, I've seen that from Green Bay Packers Twitter. It's like, let's quit being the second youngest team in football and sign some guys and be a good football team.
The reason the Vikings made the playoffs, by the way, and their defense was effective as it was, is because they were veteran. Because Flores runs a complicated defense, and because they could make checks at the line. There were points in the game where Stafford would go to the line, make an audible, and then you'd see the Vikings defense audible their coverage based off Stafford's audible. Like, veterans are important, and Super Bowl winning teams aren't.
Triple stamp, a double stamp.
All right. One thing I will say, though, as we're bummed out here, one shining light is Kevin O'Connell will get a contract extension. They're not going to botch this a la Dallas Cowboys with Mike McCarthy. Like,
I thought that they told him he couldn't interview with people, and then they're like, yeah, that's fine. You can
get out of here.
Get out of here. Hey, you can't. Hey, stop talking to my man. Don't talk to my man, Chicago. Yeah, we're breaking up. I don't want to be.
Professional actor Jerry Jones.
Yep.
He's had better appearances on Landman than he has for any media appearance over the next 3 months. Anyway, the one thing that'll make us feel good, the GM and the head coach have put together 2 13-plus win seasons in their 3 years here, and they were probably going to make the playoffs last year if their quarterback's Achilles didn't blow up. Mm-hmm. They've put some good teams on the field. The coaching staff and there are some flaws, obviously, but every coach has them. Like, this is still a work in progress. Their 2025 was always kind of the year. It doesn't take away from this year, but if you're projecting forward, the infrastructure is in place with the head coach, with the GM. You have a young quarterback. You have cap space. You have some building blocks still around this team. You still have Justin Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson. You still have your bookend tackles. Christian Darrisaw is going to come back next year and help things out. There's still a lot of things that are going to be good. It just sucks because, like we've talked about all the time, Corey, you're in your window when you're in your window. And the Vikings pried open a window in 2024, and they just failed to take advantage. And who knows if this 2025 will not be the same team as 2024 with all the free agents leaving.
Yep. So, windows in the future don't exist because your quarterback could tear his Achilles, or he could pee down the side of his leg in the 2 biggest games of the year or whatever. The window only exists in that window. Yes, 2025 was going to be the plan, but that doesn't mean it's going to be good. The Vikings were really good. They're going to have another really difficult schedule again next year. Most teams that play difficult schedules one year take a step back the next year. That's just how it works. They had a window. They found a window and still crashed through the wall like Kool-Aid Man instead.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
They got stuck halfway through the drywall and didn't make it through that entire wall.
Dang it. Ran into a stud.
I could see how that would be annoying. The one thing is, too, is Sam Darnold, for all his flaws in the last 2 games, he threw for 35-plus touchdowns. He had like a 3-to-1 TD to interception ratio.
He was really good.
He's really good. And people who are like, well, J.J. McCarthy's going to come in and save us. Is he going to throw 35 touchdowns next year? Probably not. He's going to need more of a running game.
Can I follow that up, though? I would take lesser stats to not
pee down your leg in an important game?
Correct.
Yeah, that's also – J.J. McCarthy did win a national championship.
Wouldn't you take slightly lesser stats to not have what happened against Detroit and the Rams happen?
Oh, yeah, but there will be people next year who go, well, Sam Darnold did throw for 35. Because there were people last night who went, Kirk Cousins never had a game this bad. I'm like, my brother in Christ, he was here for 8 years. What do you mean? Yes, Kirk Cousins was never known for peeing down the side of his leg in important games.
Yikes, dude.
We don't have to play revisionist history with everybody. We're going to think of Kirk Cousins the same way we think of Sam Darnold, by the way. Hey, we didn't quite win it. He had some nice stuff here, but ultimately you just found out that his flaws are too big to overcome sometimes. On to the next quarterback.
Sam Darnold, I think in 5 years we think of Sam Darnold a little like we thought of Case Keenum.
Yeah. Except Case Keenum gave us the miracle, at least.
Correct. At least it was more fun than Case Keenum.
Yeah. That's to be fair, his defense was much better.
All that's fine, but I'm saying, like, Case Keenum's entire career didn't make sense. Or that year didn't make sense compared to Case Keenum's entire career. It's quite possibly going to be the same here for Darnold.
It could be. So why don't we let the Las Vegas Raiders go pay him $45 million a year, and we'll be done.
That's fine.
That's fine. Let them go do it. We could make ourselves sad all day long, but I think this is a good point to wrap it up. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There's Corey Tackman over there. Sad Zeke in the middle. Thanks for joining us today. And I guess maybe we made you feel sadder. I don't know if we really helped anything. It's the saddest skull clap I've ever seen in my life.
No, those were prayers to the football. Please give us one exciting end of the year.
Please. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. This is the Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.